What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 7 of the Bullpen Mafia Podcast. I am Javi Salas, as always, joined by our executive producer, Eric Todorov, and our Northeast correspondent, who is wearing enemy colors tonight, Stephen Peterson from Boston. And Petey, congrats on your victory lap. Game 1 victory for the Boston Bruins over the Florida Panthers, 5-1. I'm sure you're feeling great.
Yeah, boys, feeling good. Obviously, I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers here with this outfit. I just wanted to get on here. It's just one game. It was a good game. It's a nice 5-1 win. You got some guys stepping up that you don't see a lot. I mean, Carlo literally has a baby at 3:00 in the morning, hops on a quick PJ flight, goes down there, pops one early. So, again, boys, we're all friends here. I just figured,
it was the only clean shirt, right?
I was gonna say
the only thing left in the closet.
I was gonna say I didn't look for this for 2 hours today at all, bro. I had this thing all ironed out and ready to go. So yeah, thanks for having me.
If that's the one you're wearing today, I can only imagine what you were wearing last night.
Last night I just have my Bruins undies on. That's it.
Is that a winter classic? A winter classic sweater?
Yeah. So this was back in, what was this one? The 2010, the first one that was at Fenway there.
Wow.
So yeah, this is look at the old school B here. Get the old brown colors. I mean, this is this is a true classic right here. But again, boys, a lot of respect for the guys on this podcast. It's one game. You know what I mean? Let's not get too far down the road here.
We got a feeling it's going 7. We're not.
I agree.
We're not hitting the panic button just yet.
No, it's going to be a great series, boys. I'm happy that we're going to spend time together on here while it's happening.
So we crossed that off the list. That was a big elephant in the room. We had to get over that. The Celts beat the Heat, the other elephant, but we're not a basketball pod. We're puck heads and seam heads here.
Mm-hmm.
Celtics, just order of business, taking care of the Heat in 5 games. Petey, how was Disney, man?
It was awesome, boys. It was nice to be it was nice to share a little Florida air with you guys. Dude, it was hot. Like we haven't had. I mean, we may have got.
Buddy, it's April. It just turned to May.
Just getting started. Petey, there's 2 seasons in Florida. Okay,
boys.
First it's summer, and then it's hurricane season.
Boys, I was getting beat up down there. I still got some heat rash going on. I mean, we're talking like I haven't felt anything like that, boys, since August of last year. Maybe we had a couple of those days, but I mean, I know what it's like down there in the summer. Spent a couple 3 seasons in the Florida State League, Mississippi for the 1 year. But honestly, Disney was good. I mean, I left my wallet there. I don't even bring it fucking home. The place is just absolutely insane.
Literally or figuratively? Like you actually left your wallet or?
No, like I should have just fucking left it there with the amount of money that it costs going down there. But you know what, Javi, it's in Toad, it's for the kids, man. You know what I mean? The kids had fun. They had a good time. You know what I mean? That's it. And
you got to drink around the world. If you have to pick your top 3 countries and then you order, what are we rolling with?
Toad, honestly, absolutely incredible question. Going England 1 just because like I feel like it's a tradition.
Wow.
It's a tradition amongst family to go with a little black and tan there, right? Little Guinness harp early on, right? When you get in the park, usually come in the back way there, hit England first.
You got to check after that.
Boys, listen, the fucking margaritas in Mexico down in La Cava del Tequila will fucking rock your world, dude. I remember a couple of years ago, I played in the Florida State League. My aunt and uncle were down here with my younger cousins, bro. I must have had 2. I was buckled, absolutely buckled down there. So I make it a point to go down there and get one. And then, boys, I don't know how familiar you are with Epcot last time you were there. I can't remember. It's like you go past like Norway. It's right on the corner before you're turning into Germany, maybe. There's a stand on the left. They got the coldest Bud Lights you ever seen in your life. I don't know what it is. I don't know if people aren't drinking them out of there, but the United States, give me a Bud Light in the U.S. and give me a goddamn at the left-hand turn outside of Germany and Norway. Just an old-fashioned Bud Light, Toad. I'm not getting too nitty-gritty there. Give me the margarita, the black and tan. So, yes. All right, so we're gonna go England, Mexico, United States.
Wow.
Yep.
The who's who. I think the mafia needs to do a live drink around the world once we get.
Oh my God, would that be
unbelievable? I think that'd be unbelievable. One thing I did forget to mention, the most important thing, my executive producer is going to kill me. I should mention that we are live on all our socials, YouTube and Instagram. Give us a follow at Bullpen Mafia Pod. Once again, that is at Bullpen Mafia Pod. I think let's hop right into the good stuff, Toad. Don't you lead us off?
go, baby.
Yeah, around the horn here. Starting off at first base, the big news in Major League Baseball last week, the Miami Marlins fire sale has started. The gasoline is on the fire. Peter Bendix is on the warpath, ripping apart the Marlins piece by piece, starting with their biggest piece. Two-time All-Star, two-time batting champ Luis Arraez was traded to the San Diego Padres for 4 prospects that I've never heard of, that Javi's never heard of, and I'm sure Petey's never heard of.
Definitely haven't heard of it. Definitely haven't.
I once I got the push notification, I immediately put in the group chat, wow, Ethan Salas is really going to be a Miami Marlin. No, he was not included in the trade. At first glance, the return from the Padres to the Marlins for Arraez is a bit underwhelming, but I think a lot of that stems from just ignorance from Marlins fans, including myself, just not being familiar with the Padres' top prospects. But I have a hard time imagining.
You're speechless, Toad.
Yeah. Speechless. That about says it all, Toad.
Yes,
that says it all.
Speechless.
That's our sentiment.
Yeah, I think the Marlins are going to flirt with the worst record in MLB history. I cannot see this team doing anything positive. They've traded away their leader and without a doubt their best player. They're awful. They're going to be awful. The season's only going to get worse. We're 2 months into the season and the general manager is waving the white flag.
2 months.
Pretty
Is
unheard of
generous,
to be this out in front of the trade deadline.
And you just made a great point that, we're 35, 36, 37 games in, right? It's not even two. You gave the Marlins front office a little too much grace there. I think, the crappy part about all this is, yes, it's unfortunate. We don't really even know who these prospects are, and you're doing them kind of a disservice, right? These guys are probably tremendous players, but at this point in our fandom, the Marlins are just kind of used to this. It's like the beaten dog. We've been here before. We always are sort of saddled with these prospects in hopes that one of them can turn out to be half the player that Arraez is, and that return probably looks pretty good. I mean, you kind of go back and forth with what the Marlins were going to be this year. Obviously, a playoff team last year. Most would say that the model was unsustainable, winning a bunch of one-run games, and then you get Peter Bendix in here, who from the get-go seemed like he had the ultimatum that he was going to strip it down to bare bones and spare parts and start this back up again. And it's tough, man. It's tough to be a Marlins fan. I know, you and I, Toad, we talk about this at length, but it's difficult to be a Marlins fan right now. It's even more difficult when your best players are sort of just gone with the wind.
We mentioned it briefly last week, and I'll just say one more thing, and we can move on because I don't feel like talking about the Marlins anymore either. But whatever limited goodwill the team built last year by making the playoffs, it's completely out the window. Not only are they starting over with the roster, I genuinely feel like they're starting over with the fan base. People.
How many times have we said that in our lifetime, Toad? How many times have we said that?
Seriously.
Yeah. So it's tough shit. It's really unfortunate. I can't picture myself going to another game this year. I went to opening day.
Wow.
I don't miss opening day. I think hopefully the next baseball game I'm going to this year is Yankees, Red Sox.
No, Toad,
you're going on the record. No more Marlins games for Toad.
Toad, you better hope the Panthers run goes deep into the summer, Toad, or else we're going to be looking for something to do.
Well, let's acknowledge one little bright spot today in Marlins semi-Marlins news. Our former teammate Monty Harrison made the news today.
Yes,
he is going to play football at Arkansas. Monty was a big prospect that was part of the Christian Yelich deal, and somehow, freak athlete, Petey. We saw him firsthand. Dude's an absolute freak show. Played football, basketball at a really high level in high school. And he's going to go play football at Arkansas, man. The SEC, like, what the heck?
Bro, that's literally I remember we talked about this early on some of the first pods that we did, but that guy is an Under Armour mannequin. like he is the guy bro, when you go to Dick's Sporting Goods, bro, that's exactly what you see. And now he's going to strap the cleats on and he's going to go out there and play, man. Again, Javi, like you said, freak athlete. I just got a feeling that, I mean, he's on, like, he's walked on, right, Javi? Like, this is not like a, hey, he's gonna go try out. Like, wow, look at this guy. He was a former MLB.
I mean, dude, I saw him on some big recruiting publications.
Yeah,
as much as I possibly can be plugged in with recruiting. I'm in some group chats, and it made its way there. I mean, Monty Harrison, I guess, he had some schools after him. I mean, he's 28 years old. He's gonna be one of the older guys, and I mean, the oldest guy probably in that Arkansas locker room. It'll be a cool experience for him.
He's going to be older than some of the coaches.
Yeah.
So, bro, what was that? Who was that guy a couple of years ago? Remember that quarterback that was like 28, 29? Remember he played baseball first for a while?
Whedon.
Yes. Put some respect on his name. That's a first-round draft pick.
Was he a first-rounder, dude?
Cleveland Browns, dude. Yeah.
Wow. Brandon Whedon. Yes. Wow. Yeah, well, I mean, but I think Monte Harrison, Brandon Whedon are a little bit different in terms of athleticism. But
yeah, I'll give Monte the slight edge there.
Yeah. The Under Armour man again,
bro. That NIL money's hitting a little different than the minor league paycheck, probably too.
I mean, but I will say Monte was a very high draft pick. Very, very. He got a nice little check there, and we don't have the exact figures in front of us, but Monte was a high draft pick of the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll circle back to that. I'm sure we'll have Monte on here at some point in the podcast history.
Hey, Javi, I jumped the gun a little bit. You see me get a little excited when you say a little bit of old Marlins, like, and you said the word light. I mean, boys, Garrett Cooper is on the Red Sox. He's literally,
yes,
he's literally a hometown kid now, man. It feels like he's been here forever. I mean, he texted me. So he texted me and said, "Welcome home, bro." This was like last Saturday, 4:00 in the afternoon. Welcome home. I hit him with a FaceTime right away. My man's at the gym grinding. He's a free agent, bro. He's on the elliptical grinding. I'm hitting him with the FaceTime. Hey, what? You need help? Hey, I'm gonna be your realtor. Hey, what do you need? Hey, you want to stay in the basement for a couple of nights, dude? What do you got? Hey, I'm just trying to welcome this gentleman with open arms. He's gonna be playing in the Cathedral of Boston. The boys are in Atlanta. They're playing now. We got them in the background. Friday night, come back at home. Washington Nationals. I mean, you want to talk about a homecoming, dude. I'm looking to be out there. Big hugs. Got Brady, the number 28 City Connect jersey. Used to be JD Martinez. We got him fucking throw the Cooper on the back now. Little white tape will be good to go, boys.
Petey, you're beaming, dude. I think we're gonna jump right into our next topic, Petey. Tell us about your socks, bro. Tell us about your socks, man.
I mean, dude, like, I was watching it earlier on today. They had a big segment on Cutter Crawford. Obviously, Cutter Crawford is just absolutely dialed in right now, boys. As the whole pitching staff is. We talked about this early on. Andrew Bailey, right? I feel like the whole thought process around the Red Sox and their starting pitching right now, right, is, hey, less fastballs, more sweepers, more sliders, more other stuff. Like fastballs get hit harder, higher batting averages against fastballs. Here's my take overall. I don't think it's necessarily like, hey, we want to get away from fastballs. We don't want to throw fastballs. They get hit harder. They get put in play more, this and that. I was on record early on in this podcast saying that I believe that the reason why, or what Andrew Bailey has done since he's came in, is he's eliminated the bullshit. Right, Javi? How many guys you see in spring training come in with I got a cutter, I got a slider, I got a sweeper, I got this, I got that, and fucking five of them are ball one, ball two, ball three, right? And then it's like hey, let's focus on the pitches that are going to get out here and get outs, right? What is the point in you throwing a curveball and a slider? If you throw your curveball early in the count, you try to throw it as a get me over and it gets whacked, but your slider you think is just a 2-strike pitch or a pitch when you're ahead in the count. Hey, why don't we make that something you can throw early on too? Why don't we change the shape of it? Why don't we change the philosophy? Change the way you're thinking about throwing it? And I think that's what he's done. He's taken these, especially the starters, he's taken these guys that are going, 4, 5, 6 innings, and he's made sure that they're throwing the pitches that are most effective for them. Like, look at who they talk about, like Tanner Houck with his splitter. He's throwing his splitter twice as much as he has been in the past, and he's on record going, "Hey, man, I feel so I've never felt this confident in it before." Yeah, then fucking throw it, man. Like, throw. You know what I mean? Like, then throw it as much as you can. I mean, that's sort of my take on it all. Is that these guys are truly focused right now on throwing their best pitches, right? Not necessarily just getting away from fastballs, but they're throwing their best pitches in counts where maybe guys got fastball heavy before and maybe hitters were sitting on certain stuff. So I think that's sort of where it came from. Obviously they've been playing good. Alex Cora is doing a good job. I was a little iffy on Cora early on in the year because I felt like he was pissed off with the front office and how they were handling things and not going out and getting certain guys or acting like, oh, we're good as we are, and sort of taking it as just a year. Hey, we got Breslow in town now. Like, let's just go through the motions a little bit. But like you said, Javi, 2.59 ERA, best in the MLB right now. Starting rotation's got a 2.1.
That plays, dude. That plays.
It does.
People want to see a long ball, but obviously Andrew Bailey's done a tremendous job, Pete. I think you hit the nail on the head, man. They're pitching more to their strengths, understanding guys. I think they've had some big name guys down. I mean, without Lucas Giolito, you just go up and down that roster. I think I read today in that ESPN article, they've lost the most days to the IL of any team thus far, and they're 3 games over 500. They have a chance. I mean, they're playing well. And look, you just want to stick around in that division. That division's so good.
100%.
The Yankees, the Orioles, the Blue Jays, the Rays. So I think, get some guys healthy, stick around, make a push at that wild card and see what happens. So, Petey, you're buzzing, dude. Boston's got a lot going on.
All that, the roast of Tom Brady. It's been a big few days for Boston.
Pump the brakes one time, dude.
The roast of Tom Brady, man, boys. That was raunchy as hell. I could not believe some of the shit that was being said. You could even tell sometimes that he was just blown away by some of the shit. But here's my take on it all. Like, that guy goes out there, he lets it happen. You bring together, some of the faces and some of the things that have made that team great. The fact that Belichick came on, dude, I'm not the biggest Belichick guy. I've made that clear in this podcast. But the fact that he came on, he cracked a couple of jokes. He acted like everything was good. He takes a shot with Kraft. He takes a shot with Brady. Like, that stuff was cool, man. Thanks for bringing that up. I feel like you guys are really circling into the Boston right now.
Closing the book on Boston. We are done with Boston.
Please, before I throw up.
Yeah, I love it.
Our third base topic on Around the Horn here, Phillies, Toad. Are they the best team? This is going to hurt. I know this is going to hurt to just say this phrase. Are the Phillies the best team in baseball? Yes or no? Gun to your head. Answer the question.
I don't know if we're ready to crown them best team in baseball. No, I don't think so right now. Wow. But I will say they're the best team right now in the NL East.
Yeah, they are.
And they are on the heels of the LA Dodgers. Everything is working for them. Bryce Harper's healthy.
How nasty is Wheeler, boys?
Yeah, the pitching staff led by Wheeler and Ranger Suarez, who's been a playoff performer, is putting it together in the regular season. They're getting contributions from Alec Boehm. I think he leads the team in batting average and RBI. So, and they're doing all this with getting absolutely nothing from Nick Castellanos. So
crazy.
An impressive 36-game start to their season. I think this is the first time with this core, with Harper, Castellanos, Boehm,
Schwarber,
Wheeler, that they've gotten off to a hot start.
Turner's out for a couple of weeks still, right? Like, he's still got some time. Bryson Stott's over at short now, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
I think Trey's dealing with a hamstring thing, but it's a Toad's point. They haven't gotten off to these hot starts and still found their way deep into October playing meaningful baseball. So, I mean, look, I as a Phillies hater growing up in South Florida, it's tough to see, but that place is rocking, man. They got everything clicking for them. I think it's a cool place. I think, look, when you see the packed stadium like that, Citizens Bank,
there's no better venue in baseball than Citizens Bank Park when it's filled to the brim.
Toad, you've been there, haven't you?
Besides Fenway, you mean, Toad? So. Sorry, we're off the Boston stuff. My bad, boys. So we'll get you down here. We'll get you some love down here, Toad.
Last topic on our Around the Horn segment, we're going to talk about the Rays and the Brewers. Cleared benches last week. Yep. Brewers Abner Uribe and Jose Siri. There was some punches thrown, boys. This was not a run of the mill benches clearing, push and shove. There was some blows, dude.
Hey, Siri missed with the slap. Did he miss with the open hand slap, bro?
Oh my God! Are starting to rub off on these guys.
They really are. They really are. A little Pat Maroon in there, boys.
I'll say this and take it for what it's worth. The Rays showed a little more fight than the Lightning. Maybe.
Ooh. I like that.
Did they? I don't know. Wow. You tell me.
I didn't see that in the outline. You've had that one.
I was going to say that
was back pocket. That was back pocket. But yeah,
it
was
that.
Good to see the two teams that probably don't play each other a whole lot and won't play each other much going forward. The Rays and the Brewers, NL Central, AL East. No love lost between those two teams. If Freddie Peralta got the party started a little bit, he gives a home run to Jose Siri. Next at bat, he comes up in a 3-0 count and, 3-0 count just lights him up, dude. And look, Freddie's a good guy. He's going to be a friend of the program. He got him in a good spot. Didn't throw him up high. He got him in the looked like the kind of around the butt hip area.
Javi, he was pitching to him early on though, wasn't he? Did he go first pitch slider on him?
It was one of those things where like people were saying it was intentional, and it was like, I don't know, man, because to your point, he was pitching in that at bat. It wasn't like he was just missing with balls. You know what I mean? So
that was a 3-0 fucking dude. I'm just gonna smoke this guy right here, man. Yeah.
But Toad brought this up early on in the year. He likes to see baseball get a little chippy and scrappy. I think
I agree.
Toad, man, you've been on top of this the whole season, man. Baseball needs a little more of this, right?
I think the umpires are letting them swing a little bit. It's okay.
Sorry about that, boys. You get a little up close to me there.
Petey, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Hold on, boys. Hold on.
I thought you were just showing off the sweater a little more, dude.
My fault, boys. My fault here. My fault. I don't know what's going on, bro. I don't know. All right, hold on.
Dude, yeah, this is.
All right, we're good. We're good, boys. Here we go. No way. Don't even tell me.
There we go.
All right, what about now?
No.
No.
There we go.
There we go. All right, sorry, boys. Yep.
Hang in there.
Yep. All right, hey, boys, speaking of bench clearing brawls, and speaking of pitching to a guy first, can I give you guys a quick one from back in high A?
Give us one.
So, Javi, big Bubba, big Mark Williams, right? I think you remember, Mark, were you in Brevard when Willie was there?
He was there,
right.
Yep.
So, this all started, bro, Cliff Lee making the rehab start with the Phillies, right? This is back in Clearwater. All right, Arcia's up there. He's got some antics going on, right? He might have K'd or something like that, but he's yelling. Cliff Lee's getting fired up. Like Cliff Lee's giving him like the old, like get in the fucking box sort of thing, right? But Arcia, obviously a lot of swag, like taking a little bit of time. Ends up like, I think he might have punched him once or twice. Arcia gets up in like the ninth inning, dude. Hits a, and this Cliff Lee was no longer in the game, but hits like a game tying 3-run bomb, dude. This is at Clearwater. He's going fucking ape shit around the bases, dude. He's giving it to everybody. They're giving it right back. He touches third, takes forever to get down. Like home plate, boom. He's giving it everything. Tie game. Whatever happens in the rest of the game, whatever. 2 weeks later, Clearwater comes down to Brevard, dude, right? So at the time, J.P. Crawford was their guy, right? So RC was kind of our guy at the time, right? And like he was mouthing off. J.P. Crawford was their guy. So we get home to Brevard. What do you know? Fucking first inning, Arcia leading off. Whack, right? Fucking got him good. He's still mouthing off, but whatever. He goes down to the baseline. You could just feel the tension building up all game. This is what I fucking love, because I've mentioned this before. Toad, I didn't throw hard enough to hit anybody, but everybody in the world knew that J.P. Crawford at some point in that game was going to fucking get one. So what do you know? I'm in the game. It's like the 6th or the 7th inning. The situation rolls in perfectly where it's like you got to, lefty starts off the inning. I went the first inning. I come in. I get the lefty, right? I'm like, fuck, J.P. Crawford's coming up. Like I know I'm gonna get the signal or fucking
time, baby.
Xavi's gonna come out with fucking give me one of these. Like, hey, you fucking get him. So next thing you know, I'm cruising, right? So here comes fucking A-Roll. Hey, great job out there. We need Willie to come in and finish business. So they bring in fucking big Mark Williams, right? This guy, what do you say, Javi? Like probably what, 90, 93, 94?
Heavy,
right?
Heavy fastball.
Heavy Toad, and this kid did not give a fuck. Like he knew what he was coming in for, and that was it. So set the scene, right? Nobody on, J.P. Crawford coming up. He fucking knew it. Everybody in the stadium knows it. He throws first pitch slider, Javi. Fucking nasty, dotted down in the zone. Boom, right down the middle. Everybody's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I thought he was hitting him. Next pitch, like, way the fuck over his head, like, sailed him. Like, everybody's like, hey, come on. Next pitch, boom, smokes him. All right? Dude, like, everyone was expecting J.P. Crawford to go, like nuts or start coming after him because, obviously, like, he just buzzed his fucking tower, and then he actually hits him. He took it like a fucking pro. Puts the bat down, starts doing as like a slow jog down to first base. Williams is fucking barking at him. Here come the benches, right? Here comes everybody coming out. RC is in the fucking middle of it. He's yelling. He starts tackling people. So mind you, Javi, the brawl's happening around shortstop and third base because that's where Arcia has it. Mark Williams is standing there screaming at J.P. Crawford like, you fucking want some? Dude, he had his arms crossed. He has his arms crossed, standing on first base, talking to the first base coach. And I'm like holding Mark Williams back, like doing the fake hold back because like nothing was happening. And J.P. Crawford's like, I'm fine, dude. Like, it's not a big deal. I understand what's happening. And mind you, the fucking brawl is taking place in left field, center field. RC is fucking open hand slapping. I mean, it was just, listen, it's not that I'm not saying it should happen all the time, but I think we have seen it a little bit more this year than anything. It does get the boys fired up. I mean, it's a different type of feel. You don't see it a lot in baseball, but we are seeing it more. Maybe a little bit more emotion, a little NHL coming in, like you said.
And it's less these days, I feel, about the unwritten rules. It feels like it's more just like personal beefs, that kind of like hockey, where it's like, dude, you want to go? Let's go.
Yeah.
There's no more
exactly.
There's no more that you hit my friend, I'm going to hit your friend now. It's like Jose Siri has a problem with somebody, or vice versa, and they're like, fuck it, let's fight.
Let's do it.
Good stuff, boys. Dude, it's hockey playoff time, man. We're riled up, man. We're fired up, pent up energy.
We're fired up.
Toad, take us away with fair or foul.
Okay, a couple fair or fouls this week. This season, there's been a handful of City Connect jerseys that have, for lack of a better word, been completely ass. And I think there's another one that's been added to the pass section, the foul section. I'm just going to preemptively say I'm foul on these off the bat. But the new Detroit Tigers Motor City City Connect jerseys. What?
Boys,
thumbs down from Javi Salas.
Oh, dude. Oh.
Boys, again, I'm on the record on this podcast telling you that nobody loves a City Connect jersey more than myself. The Motor City, for whatever reason, I feel like Jared Goff should be out there the first time they wear those, firing a fucking laser at home plate, boys. I want Amon-Ra St. Brown behind the dish catching that thing. I don't know. It just gives me Lions feels. Boys, I love them. I am the guy. You guys want to know who the people that buy the City Connect jerseys or who deal with that shit? It's me. I love them.
Dude,
I love them.
Nike, find this guy.
Right, Nike, are you listening?
Siri is going to send you so much spam of City Connect, dude.
Are you guys? Phil Knight, are you listening? Is he still with us? I'm sorry if he's not. Might have to cut that, Toad. Might have to cut that. Is he still with us?
He's with us.
All right, sorry. I didn't know.
We can't confirm that Phil Knight is alive.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
The one tweet that summed it up for me, I wish I had it ready to pull it up, but a guy just said that the City Connect jerseys look like they're meant for 12 and under
youth baseball,
club baseball,
league baseball.
Yeah.
I like it's these jerseys that look like they've been designed by people who know the bare minimum about these cities, and it's like, hey, let's make a cool uniform for Detroit. Oh, they're the Motor City, right? So let's put that on it. It just feels lazy. The dark colors are ugly. It's not very baseball. And I think the Tigers have a quality and long enough history. They've been around such a long time that they could have pulled inspiration from other stuff that's not tire tracks down the middle of a jersey. Like it's just bad.
I can't wait to wear it next week on the podcast. I might have to pick one up, boys.
Maybe
Motor City.
When we get going here, Petey, you're the stand for all City Connects too, man. We'll get a deal with Fanatics and Nike, and we'll just send you some crappy uniforms that you can wear on the regular.
Hey, a couple.
What do you mean crappy? He's already got one on.
Yeah, just continue the trend.
I love it.
Okay, so next on fair or foul, I thought this was interesting, and I honestly did not know that this was allowed in baseball. Pete Crow Armstrong, the new rookie sensation for the Cubbies, he rips a double, I think down the right field line. He dives into second base. He overslides a little bit. His helmet falls off, and then he uses his helmet to stay on top of second base. He's tagged, but ruled safe. Fair or foul is using your helmet as a tool to stay on base allowed, or should it be allowed?
Dude, I don't know if it's allowed, but it looked cool. So
it did look cool.
It looked really cool.
Javi, it almost looked choreographed, dude.
It was sick.
I felt like he did it on purpose.
Like, that guy's a rookie, and he's been one of those prospects that people have talked about for a really long time. People have awaited his coming to the big league. So what I really wanted, I just wanted someone to challenge that ruling, and the umpires to have to give us some nonsense ruling and come up with something, because umpires have been on their A game this year with just being absolutely terrible, Angel Hernandez, there's been some really bad stuff with him.
Dude,
The zones are terrible. This would have been just peak umpire to hear the explanation for, is the helmet part of the slide? And that's what I wanted. But yes, fair. It was really cool. I thought Pete Crow Armstrong played it off really well.
PCA. We went to that Cubs game the other night. Some guy was screaming PCA 1,000 times. I had no idea who he was talking about until I was like, "Oh, Pete Crow Armstrong." Oh, all right, yeah, but yeah, hey, PCA, great slide, bro. That was cool. Keep it going.
That was sick.
People are loving it.
All right, we're gonna transition here. We have a very cool interview next with friend of the program, Jack Murphy. He's one of Petey's buddies. Played with him in the NECBL, Petey, and had a really long minor league career. Played for just about 10 years and currently working as a scout in the LA Dodgers organization. We're really excited to have him on, chat through all sorts of things, talk about minor league baseball, talk about what he's seeing at the pro level, and just chop it up with one of our boys.
Absolutely, yeah. Jack's a great dude, man. He's, like you said, Javi, played with him in 2008 summer ball. Got to face him again in 2016 in AAA. He's just a guy. He's an absolute moose. He's an absolute workhorse. He's an absolute glue guy, like we call ourselves on here.
I think you described him as a 6'4" brick shithouse.
Yes, boys. Yes, that was in the notes. Yes, I will introduce him as a 6'4" brick shithouse as well, just to get the boys going. But yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I think one of the things I'm excited to dive into most is the fact that he's scouting now. Javi, you and I have been out of the league for a while, man. God knows what these guys are looking for these days. I'd love to get a little bit of insight into when he's watching the game and sees the young guys playing, what he's diving into now. So yeah, it'll be cool. Can't wait to get him on. I had to give him a little love here. Bring another Florida guy that I'm close with onto the podcast here. My boy Jack Murphy, Lakeland, Florida kid, 6'4", built like an absolute brick shit house, boy. He's got the big hands. Check out his social media. His stash was as show as he was, boys. He was one of the best around. His handshake's unbelievable. It'll swallow your hand up. I had the absolute pleasure of playing with Jack in Newport in 2008. Newport Gulls summer team, NECBL. Absolute blast. Jack was actually lucky enough to live with the owner of the Gulls, Chuck Pava, who is an absolute just legend. A guy who I'd love to get him on here sometime and just talk about summer ball and all the shit that he's probably seen over the years. I mean, I don't know how much you Florida guys know about Newport, Rhode Island in the summer, but let me just tell you, Jack and I had a great time. We absolutely lived.
What's the drink? The mudslide.
Yeah.
Is that,
how do you know that, dude?
Come on, dude. Come on.
I mean,
I'm not a hoser, dude.
No, because there was this one guy. His name was Luke. Jack, I don't know if you remember Luke down at the I can't even believe I'm gonna forget the name of it. I want to say the land. The Black Pearl. I fucking knew it, Jack. Yeah, you fucking know. You're still thinking about it over there. You're still making the mudslides at home and get the recipe. Yeah. But Javi, there used to be a guy named Luke, bro. I think his son he was involved with the team too. But I mean, this guy was begging for guys to come down there pre and post game. He didn't give a shit when you drank the mudslides as long as you were drinking them.
Yeah.
But no, Jack. I remember throwing to Jack, back in 2008, and absolute and I said this to Javi earlier, Jack's the type of guy when he's behind the backstop, man, he is you feel like you can throw it into the goddamn ocean because he's so big, he's so wide, he was so quiet back there, just a great receiver of the baseball and somebody that I absolutely love throwing to. And I got to face him. I never got to face him obviously in Newport when we were playing together. We got to face him in 2016. I wrote down earlier on the thing, I said, I think I struck him out just to obviously, to try to be funny. And the Jack ended up finding the video today, 3-1, 92 miles an hour, probably the hardest fastball I've ever thrown in my life with the Jack.
You're talking to a scout. And you think you're not going to sneak this stuff by him, dude. There's video for everything, bro.
I understand. I was hoping he lost it, Javi. It was fucking 2016. That was 8 years ago. I was hoping he lost the film by now. But no, I got it. I mean, honestly, Jack, what I was afraid of when I watched the video was you hit the ball so hard. I'm thinking this ball's getting down the line for two. But it looked like, based off my reaction, we may have made a nice play over there.
Oh yeah, you guys. I think it said ground out. So you digged it out. It was
depends on who you ask. Right.
Yeah. Just 92 down the dick. Thank God you rolled over on it. But Jack, you're the man, buddy. Thanks for joining us. We'll get into a little bit about what you're doing now with the Dodgers and everything like that. But how's the family, man? How's the golf game? I see a lot of golf stuff on Instagram. So just give us a little bit about how life's going for you these days.
Yeah, man, everything's great. We've my wife and I, we have a 2-year-old son, Mickey Murphy. So
love it. That's awesome, man. That's a show name.
Yeah, hard to beat that name. So we've already got him on the soft toss. We got him hooked on the game a little bit. This is we're getting into like busy part of the year for me work wise. So the golf game takes a back seat. Not as much free time as I used to have, but yeah, everything's great, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I'm really looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to getting into it. Like I told you earlier before we even started recording, man, the whole, baseball's changed a lot since all of us on this podcast were in the game. And I think that having your insight into, how the game's changed, what you're looking for now, maybe a little bit of something we can talk to young players about, maybe that you're looking for as a scout, but we'll get into that a little bit at the end. But let's talk a little bit more about you, Jack, my man. A Princeton guy. What sends a Lakeland, Florida, a Central Florida guy down there to Princeton? Besides, obviously, the education factor. How'd that all work out for you? Yeah, I mean, the education is important, obviously. If the kids are listening.
No. I mean, both of my parents are teachers, so big academic background growing up, and when it got down to it, my parents, they wanted to see how good of a school I could get into. Was their motivation, and I was an open book. So I went up to the camp at Princeton. We recruited a lot of guys out of that camp, and so I go up there. I had a good camp. I got recruited, and it went basically from an option to a mandatory statement from my parents. Hey, look, this is where you're going if you get in. I did have some second thoughts because, I grew up a big baseball guy, down here, this Florida, Texas, California, but this part of Florida, especially Central Florida, a lot of great players have come out of here. I mean, Petey, you're a Red Sox guy, you're a Rhode Island guy. Steve Pierce, Chris Sale, both Lakeland boys.
Yeah.
And so a lot of really good players come out of this area. So I wanted to go to a big school. I wanted to get a lot of exposure. And my parents relayed that to Coach Bradley at Princeton, who would be a phenomenal guest for you guys too. He loves to talk shop, one of the best baseball people on the planet. He gave me a call, and he's not a heavy hand recruiter, and he caught 10 years in the big leagues and basically said, look, you're going to develop here. And we have a track record of getting guys to the big leagues and getting guys to professional baseball. So you're not going to miss that element. And, that really sold me outside the academics. And obviously a lot of that stuff when you're 18, you don't realize. But after going there and everything, the doors it's opened for me and the people that it's exposed me to, I have nothing but a ton of gratitude for the time there and the people that made that happen. Coach Bradley being, first and foremost amongst those people.
Steve Pierce, 2018 World Series MVP, right, boys?
Yeah.
Jack, today's been, we're in the midst of a Panthers-Bruins series, and I don't know if you're a Panther fan or anything, but Petey's been lighting us up. I mean, they caught game one, caught some fire. Yeah. We just had an absolute Boston onslaught from Petey. So did any Boston talk today? Let's keep it to a minimum, just so we don't want Petey to explode here on us.
Yeah, we'll keep it. I'll stay away from the glory days. We'll focus on the negative years.
I was gonna say, you're right. Let's just but you guys want to talk like prior to 04, that's fine. Just take it to a different You would just take it to a different podcast. That's fine. Jack, I wrote this down because I just thought this is a great note. Like, A Beautiful Mind is one of my favorite movies, dude. Like, you go to Princeton, John Nash goes to Princeton, and is this like did they ever talk about this stuff when you were there, Jack? Like, is this like all that stuff true about the old John Nash, A Beautiful Mind?
Yeah, I haven't dove into a ton of research on it, but
so you don't really give a shit.
I'm also a huge fan of the movie.
Okay, good.
I love the movie. I vaguely remember people talking about that they saw him walking around campus. It's one of those things, so many people walk through when you're there, and you're just a college kid that has no idea about that stuff. But somebody will point and say, "Oh, that's John Nash," or "That's
It's insane.
Condoleezza Rice, that's
Right.
Michelle Obama, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But no, I don't have any specific John Nash stories, but
that's fine. I just, that's just a little
worth a shot.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? I had to throw it in there. Every time I think Princeton, I think John Nash. I think John Nash and Jack Murphy. We got one. We'll get John Nash on maybe at some point soon.
Jack, I want to before you move on, PDL, I want to something you touched on about development, and that's such an important part of a high schooler's journey, right? I think guys want to obviously play at big time programs, but if you have a mentor, and obviously you had a head coach who had a track record, played in the big leagues, played a similar position to what you did, right? He was a catcher, so there was obviously something there that you saw yourself in him, right? So like, what'd you anticipate those that first year on campus at Princeton? How much did you learn? What'd you really take away? Obviously from Central Florida going up to the Northeast, it's a huge culture shock. Obviously, must have been in terms of everything that you've sort of dealt with your whole life, and you're sort of learning from someone who had sort of walked in these footsteps. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome, man. I mean, I have to say, like, my dad passed that year in late March. So I went to school for summer session in June. It was only a couple months, and my dad was Mr. Baseball, right? Like, and Mr. Princeton. And so that's why I have such a soft spot for Coach Bradley, because, I mean, he jumped through hoops for me to make sure that I had everything that I needed from baseball development, but also as a person, right? Like, really cared about me as a person, understood the situation that I was in, and we just got to work, right? I mean, it's a small school. It's only, I think, 4,500 undergrads. And Coach loves professional baseball. I mean, he's had a ton of success in the Ivy League as well, but he's a pro. And he would, I'm telling you, man, he would take me down to the field and he'd throw me batting practice by the bucket on the field. And his sons, like Kevin Bradley and Scotty, they would shag balls. They both played college baseball, one at Clemson, one at Indiana. And, he really made me a part of their family and helped me. And I see that in the professional game as well, as it's really hard to separate the person from the player.
Right.
I mean, it's not a big gap. You can have all the skill in the world, but if the person is suffering, his performance on the field is going to suffer. And it doesn't mean that you take care of the person because of your own goals of having them perform, but you have to value how this person is doing on a daily basis. And I think that's as big of a component of everything that we talk about in player development, is really caring about the person, making sure they're good so that then they can perform and let their natural ability come out.
Jack, what I love about that too, and I feel like you probably knew, and I think this is something that young guys need to understand too, right? You talk about, you're coming from Central Florida, you want to play at a big program, you want to do this or that. You go to Princeton, your parents are pushing you, the education's pushing you, but you find something in a coach that says, hey man, when I go here, this guy wants me to be successful. I'm going to walk in here. I'm going to play right away. I'm not going to redshirt. I'm not going to sit out. And then you get there, and this guy is going out of his way to make sure that he's doing everything he can to develop you as a person or player. And you felt that, and you go there because of that. I feel like it's such a huge thing these days for these guys. Oh, I want to play D1, or I want to play in the ACC. I want to play in the SEC. I want to do all these things, but they're not looking at the things that you looked at and the things that were important to you at the time. And I think I know you personally, so I know the type of player you are and the type of person you are. For you to talk about that a lot of that stuff started back then from a specific coach or from specific things that you did is really cool, man.
Yeah, I can't say that at that age I was thinking about all of those things. I think I got lucky, and I had great parents, and my parents pointed me in the right direction. But ultimately, what I learned from that experience is a lot of the things that you're saying is especially in the college landscape now, it is so important to go somewhere where you're going to play. because regardless of whether you're going to get the best instruction, you're going to have access to the best facilities. If you're not playing, you're not getting better, right?
Yep.
I mean, Petey, you remember Joey Manning.
Yep.
Joey's a Bartow kid. We played high school together. He built my house. He's a contractor now.
Is he? Wow.
Yeah, phenomenal guy. He went to Vanderbilt. He was one of the best players in the state in high school, like really one of the best players in the country. Like this guy was Andrew McCutcheon talent-wise out of high school. And he went to Vanderbilt and had a great fall and then got 30 at-bats his freshman year. Then got 40 at-bats his sophomore year.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that kind of – you have to play.
Yep.
You have to play. Like if I that's the advice I give guys all the time is go somewhere where you know that you're going to play. Biggest thing, Coach Bradley was awesome. The personal stuff and the advice as far as catching and all of the coaching, phenomenal. Dude, I didn't have to look at the lineup card from the day that I walked in there to the day that I left. I knew I was hitting 4-hole and I was catching.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it wasn't there. That's just what it was. You didn't have to look. And that gives you a lot of confidence as a player.
Yep, absolutely. And you're, like you said, Jack, you're playing every day, right? You're seeing different things. You're understanding different. You're learning about not only yourself, but then you're finding ways to get better because you're in the situation. It's not in the weight room or hitting like after, like you said, you get like guys are getting 30, 40 at bats. They're going certain places. You're hitting fourth. You're playing every single day, man. It's so cool to hear somebody be able to say that. Cause like you said, when you're younger, you don't think about it too much. You look back now, man, and it is like, wow. Like what a mature, incredible decision. Great leadership, obviously, from your parents and your coaches. But I mean, then it obviously leads you. We'll get a little bit into your career here. So drafted by the Blue Jays, 31st round in 2009. Climbed the ladder there pretty fast, which is great to see. Winter, Australia, that was winter ball for you in those 3 years that you were out there.
Yeah, I think I played 5. Or
yeah, you had
5
2
years over there.
Would you have Sydney at the end of your career, right after you were done, and then was it Canberra for those 3? That was winter ball.
Look at you, Petey.
I mean, bro, this guy's career, man, like the whole Australian base, dude. Javi, and listeners, fans of the podcast, fans of the program, check out this dude, like the way this dude used to look out there in Australia, man. He must have the kangaroos chasing him, boys. I mean, this guy was a stud out there. But go ahead, Jack.
Hey, Petey, first of all, the locals call it Canberra. So
Canberra.
Lock in, dude.
I can't even fucking pronounce. I can't pronounce half the towns in my state. All right?
It's kind of like Worcester, right? Like
exactly. Yeah, I love it. So you go there, you play. You got 3 down over there. September 2015, get traded to the Dodgers for Darwin Barney. Dude, when I saw the name Darwin Barney, I'm like, wow. I used to like second baseman, right?
Yeah.
Jack? Yeah, I mean, Oregon State?
Yep,
absolute, just a legend at the time. I mean, when I saw that, I mean, that's got to be pretty cool at the time because Barney at that point is a established big leaguer, correct?
Yeah. So that was a super interesting.
Run us through that.
How that went down. I mean, I was drafted in 2009, and 31st round, you're fighting for your life every day. The Blue Jays at that time, we had an incredible amount of talent in the minor leagues. I think they're out of the 14 catchers in the organization, I think 9 guys played in the big leagues at one point. I mean, it was you're talking Yan Gomes, Travis d'Arnaud, JP Arancibia, Carlos Perez. I mean, like a lot of like dudes, right? And so I backed up a lot, rightfully so. And but I, to your point in the intro, I took a lot of pride in my defense and my ability to manage the game, and that allowed me to hang around. And I moved up, and then going into that year in 15, I was going to be a minor league free agent at the end of that season. And I played the whole year in AA after being in AAA parts of the 2 years before. I didn't have a good year. Season was over. I thought, I mean, we have a place on the Rhode Island, Connecticut line, like outside of Newport. And I was there with my wife now. And, I thought I was going to be doing lessons for the rest of my life and work construction. I really did think I was done. I just hit 220 in the Eastern League. I was 27 years old. And the director of player development for the Jays, Charlie Wilson, calls me and goes, "Hey, Murph, quite frankly, I thought it was a drug test, but
you would have passed though. You would have
been fine. You would have been fine."
My wife, the third time he called, my wife was like, "Pick up the fucking phone." And so he's like, "Murph, I think you just got traded to the Dodgers." And I was like, "Charlie, I think you got the wrong John Murphy." And he was like, No, you got traded. And then Kapler called me, and I went over there. They flew me out to Arizona, and I worked out there for a month and a half, signed as a free agent. Gabe Kapler was the director of player development at the time for the Dodgers, and he's the one that called me. And Cap is awesome. He's a good friend. He's done incredible work innovating the game in general, regardless of some of the stuff. You put yourself out there as a manager, but the stuff he's done behind the scenes with the Dodgers and the Phillies and the organizations that he's been with, San Francisco, I mean, it's just incredible. And I was fortunate enough to be there at that time. And I came to find out that the reason that they acquired me was for pitch framing metrics. Because pitch framing metrics had just come out at that point, and I ranked really high in the pitch framing metrics, mostly because I used to take the umpires out. And,
sorry to interrupt you, Jack, but did you know at that time that you were a good pitch framer? Was that something that were you aware of the analytics? Was this something that came across your radar, or was this sort of news to you?
You could have fucking asked me. I would have told you, yeah.
Yeah,
the guy revived my career.
It was certainly one of those things where I felt confident in my ability. I felt good about the feedback that I was getting from pitchers that I caught. And I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I wasn't told that I was a good receiver. There certainly were things that they wanted to change about my receiving. I was pretty stubborn to my own, detriment probably, but I felt confident in the way that I did things, and I felt good about continuing to do them that way. We were not an analytical organization. Toronto wasn't at that time.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I found out that year after I got traded that the Dodgers had Yasmani Grandal and AJ Ellis were the two starters, and Austin Barnes was the AAA guy. And in all of baseball for pitch framing, according to that metric, they're all tweaked a little bit, but it was Yasmani, Barnes, and I in professional baseball for stealing strikes. But like I said, all of that stuff is very nuanced, because if you've spent 4 years in the Eastern League and you know every umpire and you've caught every pitcher, that certainly makes it easier to get strike calls.
Javi, I shit you not, dude. I can specifically remember this. Jack, if we were facing like a right-handed hitter and Jack called for a fastball outside, he would fucking sit in the left-hander batter's box. Javi, I feel like he was he would be squared up with the left-handed batter's box and just receive it right in the middle of the fucking chest, and it would be 6-7 balls off the plate, and he would get it every single time. It was unbelievable. It was just, Jack, I just remember you being so quiet, like you said. That's so cool to hear. That stuff starts to become you're not an analytical organization, but hey, this guy does something very, very good. And something maybe as an organization, you guys that you needed to be better at the time, and then they bring a guy like you in to be the face of it.
Well, I think too, it just speaks to the power of minor league baseball, right? Where Jack, you thought, probably 6 months before, like you mentioned, you thought you're gonna be doing pitching lessons for the rest of your life, and all of a sudden you have an organization that had their eye on you without you even knowing. You were really good at this metric that the organization that you were currently with didn't necessarily value a whole lot. And you kind of get a new lease on life with the Dodgers, right? And you're sort of thrust into this opportunity where, hey, they say, we made the team we're with didn't appreciate this, but we love this about you. And it kind of just speaks to the track that you were on, right? At Princeton, similar stuff. You develop, you have this tool set, you have this toolbox, you got this thing you do really well, and the Dodgers kind of spring new life onto you. So I think that's really cool. And I think it's only progressed even more. I'm sure this was in 2017 when you got traded. 7 years later down the road, we got eyes and cameras everywhere, right? I mean, you can probably speak to it now as a scout. All this stuff is tracked. Everything you do on a baseball field can be sort of quantified by a statistic. So, I mean, how much of that are you looking at, as a scout now from your experience as a player? How much are you sort of, looking for that kind of stuff and then trying to find those diamonds in the rough?
Yeah, I mean, to start on the first part of that, I mean, when I went over and I found out that about the catching with the Dodgers, I mean, it was eye-opening, just the difference in the culture, right? So to tie back into caring about the person and the player, when I went to the Dodgers, I walked in there and I got the button-up shirt, I got the slacks, I got the nice shoes, that's how we were supposed to do things, like where I came from. And I walk in and it's guys are in board shorts. There's vapes in the locker room. I was like, what's going on? I remember they flew me to Rancho Cucamonga because they were the only team still going and they were in the playoffs in the Cal League. And I walk in and it's, like Cody Bellinger and Tim LeCastro and Willie Calhoun and Verdugo, and guys are laying around, they're like napping. It's like 4:30. I'm like, guys, when's BP? And they're like,
huh?
Oh, you go hit if you want. It was
hit, nerd.
Everybody.
Imagine that. Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
All these dudes were hitting 330 with like
right.
I mean, they were all, it was just like, get out of their way, make them feel comfortable, give them the tools that they need, but take away the pressure.
Right.
And so it was a culture shock. And I still have to pinch myself every year that I've been with the Dodgers as a player and now as a scout, just how lucky you are to be with an organization that cares about you as a person, wants to make you comfortable, and understands the realities of how hard it is.
Yep.
And then to your other point about the measurables, it's almost as the measurables have become more concrete and we understand how they correlate and relate to each other. Can't view everything in a vacuum. You got to check a lot of boxes even within the data to be functional. As a player, that my job evolves sometimes more into finding out what they are like as a person. How would they fit in a locker room? What is their upside? And do they have the ability mentally with their makeup to get to the upside? Yeah. I mean, that's really the separator. It seems cliche to say. I'm not going to say it's the guy that's running, that's busting it down the line every time. But you got to be able to hit. You got to be able to throw. You got to be able to do these things. But your ability to get better is really dependent on how you are as a person.
Go ahead,
Petey. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, I think it's a great point. That's one of the things that I wanted to ask you about in terms of scouting now, right? Is, I mean, with all of the analytics and all of the directions that I feel like baseball is going now. I mean, how much of it, Jack, is like, can you go off the eye test anymore, or is the Dodgers organization? Are they making you focus on certain statistics? Like, do you have to get a guy's spin rate? Do you have to, are you getting Rapsodo type of ratings off of certain pitches? Like, how in depth are you going these days when you're looking at some of these players, especially pitchers now, and stuff like that?
Yeah. So I took this job right before COVID hit. Right. Okay. So about 2 months before COVID. So the first year and a half that I did this, I just did it via video. Yep. And so within that, you have to learn the data, understand how it applies, and you develop a real value for it, because it's like saying it wouldn't matter if you didn't know how hard the guy was throwing. I mean, the radar gun is the first metric, so to speak, as far as pitching is concerned. And it's really valuable to think about it in that way, because this is all just information that once you understand it, you're just using it as an indicator to point you in a direction and maybe to see something that other people can't see. But it's a mix of the eye test and the metrics. I mean, there's TrackMan in every professional minor league ballpark now.
Yep.
And a lot of them are transitioning to Hawkeye, which is more accurate. The major leagues has, Edgertronic and Kinetrax and even more in-depth things than TrackMan and Hawkeye. But so we have access to that information. Everybody in baseball has access to that information. How they take that information and break it down and translate it is where the differences are, I think. How you interpret that data is a big factor in the quality of your acquisitions and just the efficiency of your work. But ultimately, you're going to rely on you still have benchmarks of injury history, personal makeup. Those are still the separators, right? Mm-hmm. I actually think that the data, as somebody who's a 31st rounder,
grinder,
non-priority guy, who got traded to the Dodgers based on data.
Yep.
It's like, I think the data is great for guys because I think it levels the playing field.
Yeah.
So you can take a guy that's got $1 million bonus, and you take a guy that was a non-drafted free agent, but the data says that they're the same. I think that's valuable, because I think it gives guys that don't have that investment a better chance of getting to the big leagues, better chance of being recognized.
So Jack, so I guess that would lead me into the question for you. When you get traded to the Dodgers, you find that information out. In your head, does that make you think, okay, man, I am closer to the big leagues because I know now that they like me for this statistic? I'm one of, I'm top 3 in baseball in this specific statistic in pitch framing. I'm getting to the big leagues with the Dodgers. Is that a thought that's in your head when that happens?
I mean, every day I played, I thought I was going to get to the big leagues. I mean,
you got a jersey on, bro. You got a jersey, you got a chance. That's what
you got to
look at it
like that. Otherwise, you don't have a chance. I was happy that I was somewhere where they liked me,
right?
Where I felt appreciated for my skill set. No doubt. I loved that aspect of it. Yeah, they embraced me. That year in 2016, I was hitting $140 at the All-Star break in AAA, but they liked the way that I was handling the pitchers, so they kept me there, and I got hot. First year I ever hit 250 in the minor leagues, which is, if you knew how hard it was for me to hit, 250 was like balling in AAA.
You had Ted Williams at fucking 250.
Yeah. I had a 4-hit game. I felt like fucking Teddy Ballgame.
I love it.
There's a certain aspect to that. When people believe in you, I think you do better. You do better. And I think I was going to get to the big leagues? Yeah, of course. But it was just nice to be somewhere that you were appreciated.
Yep, absolutely. No, it's funny you say that about just that appreciation factor. I think that, there's in Javi, I know you can probably say the same thing. I feel like there's always people in organizations, right, that have your back, and then you got some other guys that either you haven't played for before, or there's some decision makers that, maybe don't see you as the same type of player that, one, you think you are, or two, others in the organization think. But I feel like when you have the right people that have your back, it's definitely a different type of feeling. I mean, shit, Jack, I'd be in the fucking big leagues if I was pitching for OKC in 2016. I had you behind the dish, Hey, and that's no offense to the guys that I play with, but I just, again, it just goes back to the fact that I just love having you back there. I want to dive in a little bit. So your Twitter, for the listeners, hop in at Jack Murphy 219. The last couple of days you've shown some footage on there of you. That's obviously you in the minor leagues. And not only showing what you're doing as a catcher, but talking about tunneling and different sequences and stuff like that pitchers were doing back then, that you were, you're calling the game, you're finding out, hey, like, I think this is what's going to make this guy successful, or this is how we're setting up hitters. I think you're providing a lot of people with some really, really cool insight. Can you just dive into a little bit of like, what sort of prompted that? Like, what made you put that stuff on there? Is it something you're going to kind of continue to kind of show here, on your Twitter or on your Instagram and stuff like that? How'd that all come about?
Yeah, I was, I honestly, after, when you get done playing, there is certainly a transition period between playing and then I was fortunate enough to go straight into scouting. This being my 5th year, I felt like I really wanted to digest a lot of the stuff that I felt as a player. I had to take the good of my experience and throw away some of the bad that impacts creates bias with us as far as evaluating players. And I finally felt like I got to a point where I was pretty level-headed about what I thought does really matter on the field, right? Like, because I'll be the first person to tell you, like, I love analytics, and the data is, the numbers they truly don't lie when it comes to the teams that invest the most in data and their success rates, right? And so within that, I still think there's avenues that we can explore data-wise that kind of highlight some of the things that I've talked about on Twitter as far as tunneling pitches and targeting. If we think about data kind of coming about the way that we're measuring it now, say in 2012, 13, 14, fast forward to where we are now, what are the things that we've learned? You got to be great up the middle defensively. You can sacrifice offense for great defense up the middle. When defensive WAR came out, rosters shifted. I remember watching a rerun of the Cardinals. Who was it?
Probably could have been the Red Sox in 2004. We won the World Series.
Shut up, dude. Gave it a rest.
Sorry.
It was the Cardinals-Rangers World Series, and I saw Lance Berkman in the outfield, Matt Holliday in the outfield, Nelson Cruz in the outfield. That's just something that we don't do anymore, right? Because the data has shown that its outs are more valuable. Right. And so it's one of those things where I really feel like a lot of the old school pillars of their beliefs have held the test of time throughout this data transition. A lot of them, look at us, we play Miguel Rojas up the middle, and he's a fantastic player, quality player. To go to Petey, some of Petey's favorite, what was it, Orlando Cabrera at shortstop? Think about
Pokey Reese.
You got to be great at those spots. So I love the data. I do think that the eye test still carries value, because as you go down the ladder, the less data you have, ultimately you do have to make eye test calls.
Jack, one of the things I found interesting, one of the tweets I think you had was you were saying umpires back in the day would pretty much be telling you, like, if you had to move your glove, right, like, it had to be a ball. So like, and again, like you talked about using your frame to kind of either block these guys out or do stuff like that. And then you're sort of like, you know, and I want the listeners to go and check out your Twitter so they can see some of the stuff. As you got older, did you change your approach sort of in how you were catching? Like nowadays I feel like a lot of guys are ground up, right? You see guys kind of starting to get underneath it and stuff like that. You know, back in the day, I remember you just kind of would be there at the knees and you would be as quiet as possible. So the game's obviously changed a ton in that way. Did you sort of do that as your career went on too? Did you have to adjust how you caught pitches or what you were doing back there?
Yeah, I definitely did change some at some point because you're always trying to get better. And so when I had that, I always tried to stay quiet because I believe that pitchers, when they're locked in on you with their legs in the air, they need to be able to see a stable target, right? The higher you go up, when you're at the AAA big league level, those guys will give signs from second base on location or pitches, so you can't set up too early. But when the pitcher locks in on you, when his leg's in the air, you got to give him a target, a starting lane. That's how I always tried to look at it. Give him a lane to start in, knowing where the ball is going to finish. But as I got older and I wanted to work lower, I was really good at the high pitch and on the corners because of the width of my frame. The low pitch I tried to get better at, so I would use the one knee sometimes. I struggled to block the ball right in front of me for years. So I started studying Yadier Molina. He does like a kick out where he starts with his feet close together and then he kicks his left foot. And if the ball's going to be in the dirt, he just lets his left foot completely go and he just sinks into it. I caught the last 3 or 4 years of my career like that. That was way easier on my body to catch like that. But those are things you learn over time. But my pitch framing numbers, really, they were always good, but they fluctuate. There's definitely a degree of variability to your pitch framing numbers, and a lot of that can be dependent on the pitching staff that you have.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say, Jack, I was a heavy sink guy, man, with not a lot of. I always say I had more control than command, right? So like with me, it was I can have a good idea of what the general strike zone was. Like if I was going blind, like I could sort of feel my way through it, but didn't necessarily have the best command, right? So like, obviously as you progress through the minor leagues, you're going to have some guys that are just really tough to catch. Talk about some of those guys that were really difficult to catch. You don't have to necessarily name any names unless you don't want to, but some guys with just stuff that was moving all over the plate. I mean, it was just nasty, high velocity. And you see it now at the big league level. I don't know how catchers are doing it. I mean, the velocity has upticked. You see some of these breaking balls nastier and nastier. The catching position is such an art form already. How has this evolution of velocity, it's a two-part question, toughest guy you caught, and how has this evolution of velocity and sort of nastiness, had the catcher positions had to evolve with it?
Yeah. I would say nastiest guy. And
besides me.
What's that? Besides you, yeah.
Yeah, besides that, 69 mile per hour curveball.
If people see that video of me hitting a laser to third off of you, they're going to know you're not nasty.
Wow, 92. This guy threw gas back in 2016, bro.
Yo, Splinker was a splinker, right?
Yeah. It's the hardest pitch I ever thrown. But yeah, we'll keep going.
The fact that we got to a 3-1 count, that's but at that time with Toronto, I would say Aaron Sanchez, man. Yeah. When Aaron Sanchez was coming up through the Blue Jays, we used to call him like a German Shepherd puppy because that's what he looked like. He was just so flexible. His arm moved so free. He'd sit there in starts in the minor leagues at 19. He'd be 96 to 99. And with sink, like, out of the frame. And he was a guy that was obviously really hard to catch because then he'd throw an 84 mile an hour yacker that he liked to bounce on the plate. And it was really, that would be one of those days where your arms would get worn out a little bit from blocking the breaking balls. But He's a guy. He's a perfect example of a lot of stuff that I try to get into on Twitter about, especially the targeting. You know, he's someone that you got to be in the big part of the plate and give him a target. If he's going to sink the ball this way, give him a target that starts off the plate so that then the ball will sink onto the plate. And you see it with Stroman. Stroman's a perfect example of it now with the Yankees. If you watch Austin Wells, we caught him the other day, they've got him setting up off the plate so that the sinker will come back to the corner, because when you set up on the plate with those guys, the sinker comes back to the middle, and that's where a lot of the damage can happen.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And again, Jack Murphy 219 on Twitter. Jack, keep filling it up with that stuff, man. For the young players out there and the guys that are listening, pitchers and catchers, right? Watch what Jack's talking about when he talks about the tunneling. Having a Jack. What was you said it earlier, and I know I saw it earlier. Tunneling was one. What were you talking about?
Targeting.
You're talking about Pat. Yes, and targeting, right, for a pitcher. Just recognizing something early and working through. They're just really, really cool stuff. Really cool stuff about sequences, ways to attack hitters. Jack was probably one of the best at that at game planning for guys and understanding what guys were looking for or what they were doing. Jack, this has been awesome, man. I know one thing I wanted to ask you too, and hopefully this pod continues to grow and we get this out there to a lot of younger folks. But as a scout now, I guess I'll finish with my last question being, what's some words of advice you have for high school players and college players and different things from a scouting perspective that you're showing up at games and you're looking for? Maybe you're there to watch one specific player, but is there specific things that you look for in guys, or when you see really jumps out at you? Just anything you can kind of provide to some young guys out there.
Yeah, I would say control the controllables for yourself as a player. Yeah. So if you're a young kid and look at the way that these guys in the big leagues are built. Look at the way, how fit. Don't look at the guys that are just uber talented. Take the majority of these guys that had to grind their way through the minor leagues and turn themselves into successful big leaguers. What do they all have in common? I mean, these guys are workers. They're fit. If I go to a game, and I'm not a workout guy, believe me,
you don't have to be. You don't have to be.
I'm not a workout guy.
Fucking look like Zeus just getting out of bed.
But if I go to a game and I see a kid who's 21 and he's overweight, what does that say? What does that say to you as a scout? It says he doesn't care about himself off the field. He doesn't take care of his body. And then you can infer from there. So I would say make sure that you're taking care of yourself, that you're eating well and you're working out and you're the best version of your body that can stay healthy over the long term. That would be my first advice. And my second advice would be chase the metrics that the guys are putting out in the big leagues right now. If you're a pitcher, position players just need to learn how to hit, be good hitters and be great defenders. I mean, that's very cliche. Pitchers, I would say the information is there online. Find those, tweak your mechanics in a way where you can emulate some of the guys that you look up to. It's not something that you need to be chasing in games, but off the field. I mean, that's a big thing right now for pitchers. I mean, it's a real thing too. There aren't any guys out there that are just overcoming the system year in and year out from a pitch metric standpoint. It's not smoke and mirrors. There's ways to improve, but it's very accurate when it comes to pitchers.
Come on, Brady.
I love it, man. Javi, what do you got? You got anything good here to wrap up with Jack?
Toad's got one question that I know he wanted to ask.
Oh, I know he's got. Go ahead, Toad. I know.
The content's great for the analytics people, and but how'd you get Scott Van Pelt to follow you?
So when I had my mask on, as I like to call it, with the long hair and the mustache, and I hit a bases clearing double in spring training with the Dodgers in 16, and SVP and Stanford Steve, they had like our new favorite player in baseball. I'll never forget. I was down in Old Town Scottsdale, and I was
sober.
I was having a soda lime, and I was sitting there, and there's about 100 TVs, and I look up, and my face is on every single one of them, and every person back at me, and I was like, oh well, I better get out of here. But yeah, so yeah, that was it. I was on the show.
That's awesome, dude.
That's epic. That
is sick. Well, you were on the show that night, or?
Well, they just played my highlights and put a big picture of me up there, and he reached out to me and was just like, we shot the shit for a little bit on Twitter, but he seems like an awesome guy.
Have you guys seen the pictures of what Jack, like when he's just full blown, like what he's talking about with the hair and the stash?
You quick Google search, bro. I mean, the Google images, Jack. I mean, unbelievable, bro. I mean,
bro, how do you not look at that guy and say like
this forever, bro?
That's what I mean. Like I want to fucking throw to this guy every second of the day, man.
Oh man. Jack, we really appreciate it, man. And obviously, we got the opportunity to learn about you through Petey, and he spoke so highly of you, and everything he said, went, you're far and above and beyond of anything we could have expected, man. So really appreciate the time. As a couple of glue guys and pitchers here, we are so thankful for all the catchers out there, and thankful for guys like you for putting up with guys like us. So we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, dude, I really enjoyed it, man. Thank you guys for having me.